This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Ampire. Hey babies, hey babies, hey babies. Hi everyone. What's up, guys? Hi everyone. How's everybody doing today? Good?
Good. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. 2025. You know what we didn't do? I just realized. I think it was because it was the middle of the week and we didn't do a show Christmas or New Year's Day or anything like that. I didn't get to do all the things I liked and hated about 2024. We didn't get to do that. And I'm not going to do it tomorrow because it's the end of the football week. And I'm not going to do it today because we got Keim and we got other things to talk about. So can we do that next week and it not be weird? It's a playoff week. I don't know what to do.
I mean, I'm just gonna be that guy that, this is what happens when you go from 2 hours to 1 hour. You don't have enough time to do all the little things. So,
all the little things. That's
good with the bad.
I like that. That was my favorite. Go through everything that bothered me and that I loved about a certain year. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Maybe if they come to me, I'll sprinkle them in as we go. Let's see. News of the day. Let's start there very quickly. The Pro Bowl came out. Jaden Daniels, who was number 3 in fan voting. I laughed when I told Mike Tirico the other night, I'll be seeing you a lot next year. I told him he should buy a place here between Jaden and Lamar. You might as well just buy a place here. And Terry McLaurin, both as starters to the Pro Bowl. Hopefully they won't be available. We'll be getting ready for the Super Bowl, but whatever. And then you read a list of like 11 names that were alternates from first alternate all the way down to fifth alternate, which I thought was interesting that they would even list something like that. And many of the names are what you would expect. Tyler Biotish, Frankie Louvu is on it. Bobby Wagner is on it. Zach Ertz got on it. Would have come back here for him this year. And then there's a bunch of special teamers, Tyler Ott, Nick Bellore, Jeremy Reeves, Austin Eckler as a special teamer. Austin Eckler was actually top 2 or 3 in kickoff returns before he got hurt. The other good news there is he's off they opened the window for him to practice. I don't think he'll play this week, but I'm not totally sure about that. But the good news is it sounds like he's going to play in the playoffs. So things are looking all the old up and up. John Allen's back. Austin Eckler might return. I'm glad that these two got, Terry and Jaden got, I think, the respect they deserve for the season they had. I got to look this up. But as of last week, one of the stats that should have made the broadcast and didn't, that I almost couldn't believe, the passer rating between Daniels and McLaurin was the highest since Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, like for a single season. For anybody, any quarterback to any receiver, he had the highest quarterback rating in that connection since a Brady Gronkowski year back in whenever that was. So they're having an incredible, incredible season together.
I mean, honestly, one of those things that I didn't think it was that good, but it's not surprising to hear that it's like that good, because it seems like every time he goes to Terry, it's either a good like short pass or he's taking it for a touchdown or for a long gain, or I forget whatever the stat is. It's like beyond the 40 yards every time he's thrown it to him. Yeah. It's some crazy. He's like the top rated quarterback too. So I guess I'm not too surprised, but I am surprised that it's topping that list, that it's Brady and Gronkowski.
All right. So congratulations to those guys. Let's get into this week a little bit. Reiterated yesterday by Dan Quinn. They do want the 6th seed. They do think it's important. Reiterated by the Rams. They kind of don't care. They're not playing Matthew Stafford for sure. So if they're not playing Matthew Stafford, are they playing Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua? I don't know. Are they playing Kyron Williams? And this is interesting because the Commanders are playing for something. The Rams are playing for something here. They could have the 3 seed because if they lose, it's likely they're the 4 seed, which means they're choosing Minnesota or Detroit over Washington, if that would happen. They don't know which one it's going to be, but they're saying we're okay playing a 14-win team. We will take one of those two over Washington. It's okay. We don't care. And I'm surprised that they don't care about that at all.
This one should make everyone feel really good about the quarterback that we have here, because I think that's a pure testimony to that. I think it's them going, yeah, those are some good teams over there. We want nothing to do with that number 5 guy, though. Because if he's got the ball in a close game, we don't think we can stop him. Goff and Darnold don't really scare them, apparently, which I guess, it's not shocking.
And Campbell's going to put their arm behind their back and give them noogies all day. Like, all right.
Right.
I don't know, like the idea that you're like, oh, we're not trying to avoid the 14-win team is pretty crazy to me. Now, they may win anyway, right? Like they could win anyway, and then it won't matter, but they're not acting like it matters to them, which does surprise me. And the Commanders have said over and over, it does matter to them to win, which I think is the right attitude about this, honestly. Like, don't take your foot off the gas. They've gone out of their way when they're asked about, can you bask in this at all? Like, can you smell the roses just for a second? They don't want to do that. They are constantly we're not in award season yet. The season's not over. Don't start backslapping everybody yet and handing out, free steak dinners. We're not ready for that yet. Let us finish the season, and then we'll take your standing ovation. But until then, this isn't over. And the Rams are going, great comeback, guys. Won the division. Woo! Let's take a little break. And on the other side of that is a 14-win team. Like, okay, if you guys do you.
I mean, I do think there's a little bit more of it being about them than whoever they're playing here a little bit too, though. They're going, we get a home game no matter what. It doesn't matter. Let's rest everybody like we have a bye. Like, I think that does matter in the state that team is in. It's not like they lit the world up this year. It's not like they won 13 games or whatever it was. This could be McVay just going, I kind of know what we got here. A week of rest is going to be more beneficial than trying to worry about who we play on the other side. I think there's a good chunk of that argument here too.
I mean, there is a feeling of, they're like, we made it. We're happy. We're satisfied. Aren't you? And the Commanders are not putting that message out there at all. And Quinn pointed out, he's like, if we get the 6, it is possible, albeit unlikely, but it is possible we could have a home game. And the Rams, like, by the same argument, you could say it is far more likely they will have another home game if they're the 3 than they are if they're the 4, but they're playing the we don't care card about it. So whatever, they can do that. That's very Hollywood of you. You guys have made it to Oscar season and you feel like you've done enough to win the award. Okay, fine.
I'll use this. I'll say this too about them as well. Like, they also, this is their second iteration of McVay, right? Like, they are fully out of the F them picks era. They have all of these young players. They could very well just also be kind of saying, look, we will take this as a victory. We'll get these young guys a playoff, experience, whether it's against a 14-win team or the Commanders. We're just going to give them that experience, and that's part of the plan. Like, I don't think anyone plans on losing, don't get me wrong, but they could very well just say, we're a little ahead of schedule, especially out of the F them picks era.
I agree, which is interesting. So now, if the Commanders go and win, right, so they'll secure the 6th seed, which means Green Bay would definitively be the 7th seed. If the Rams were to lose, and they seem to not care whether they do or they don't, and the Buccaneers win, and, well, they got to play their guys because they have to win. If they lose and Atlanta wins, Atlanta steals that division. There's no chance for us to go to Atlanta because they'll be the 4 seed no matter what if they win. But the Buccaneers could be the 3 seed if they win and do that. And if that were to happen, all these things were to happen, and Minnesota beat Detroit, all of them very logical things to happen now, this is amazing. All 3 NFC playoff games next week will all be rematches of week 1. All of them. That's unbelievable that that's about to happen. Washington played Tampa in week 1. The Eagles played Green Bay in Brazil in week 1. And the Lions beat the Rams in Detroit. This one would be in Los Angeles. Wow, that's weird. And it's all extraordinarily possible. Like, none of it is far-fetched. It's all very possible that that's what's going to happen this next weekend.
Are you telling me the script writers previewed us in week 1? Is that what happens here?
Entire NFC playoff slate, if those things happen, and none of them, considering the Rams are resting people, Tampa has to win, Washington wants to win, and Minnesota, Detroit is coin toss right now. Like, whatever. All those things happening, we will get all 3 games will be rematches of week 1.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
That's insane.
I know. It's really crazy. For me, I hope they get to the 6. I've said this a couple times. I'm not trying to avoid Philadelphia, but I don't really, that doesn't feel like a present for what we've done this year. I'd rather take the trip to Tampa or LA. And in either case, I'm going to feel pretty good about it. And I would like a second shot at Tampa to get a redo of one of the early ones and see what Jaden's got in round 2 against a team like that. So I'm happy either direction. Plus, I know the weather's going to be nice. So I'm very, very happy in either direction.
I'm with you. I also, though, I feel like Washington against Philly deserves a second round treatment, not a first round treatment.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm not really trying to duck them, but I also don't want arrested Saquon, off of this week with him already saying he's not going to play. I'm not about that life, but I will say, give him to me in the second round of the playoffs. I think the stakes actually matter of that. Well, that's me. That's not me trying to assume Washington's going to win or anything, but I think it deserves that.
The only way we would get them in the second round is if Green Bay beat. No, we wouldn't get them. We can't get them.
We can't get them. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, we can't.
We can't. We would play Detroit.
Yes.
Or Minnesota.
Whoever. Yeah.
One of those two. If we were to win, that's who we would play no matter what. The only shot we have to play them again is the NFC Championship game, which that'd be a heck of an NFC Championship. And at that point, I'm like, let's go.
Right. Yeah.
Let's go. I'm on for that. Speaking of, so they've made their choice. And should I play the soundbite? Because I have it queued up. Do you want to hear Saquon in the locker room yesterday explaining how, like, once he's explaining to the media that he's not going for the record, and it's not, let's just play it, because I think it's better just to hear it. And then you can make your mind up about whether he really wanted to do it or really didn't want to do it. So let me get, here's Saquon on his feelings about not going for the record.
Coach asked me, what I like to do. We had a conversation, and he called me back, let me know that we're probably going to be resting. And my reaction was kind of like, I told my family, obviously my family, probably wanted a little bit more than me. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is winning football games and winning the playoffs. So I got a bigger goal in mind anyway.
What was your message to him when you did it?
I mean, he asked me if I wanted to play, if I want to go for it. I said on Sunday, I probably didn't care too much for it. When I slept on it, it was like it was an opportunity to implant my name in football history. I may never get another opportunity like that again. So I'm down, but at the end of the day, I don't care for putting the team at risk. He's the head coach for a reason. He makes the decisions, and whatever decision he wanted to make, I let him know if you want me to play, I'm going to go out there and make sure I get it. And if we don't, I'm okay with that too.
Okay. So what do you think? Did he want it or not? Because I need to, we're reading into it a little bit.
Sure.
I assume that he did, but he said all the right things for sure. My feelings are very clear about this. I think this is a mistake for him and for them. I've had a lot of people tell me, because I tweeted something yesterday where I'm like, I can't believe they're not going for this. And a lot of people were pointing out 17 games and it would be different. I'm like, okay, then Eric Dickerson broke a record of a player who played in a 14-game season, and he did it in 16 games. There's no asterisk on that. And secondarily, and I think more importantly, this is what the season is now. The record is single season rush record. There will be no season with 16 games ever again. If your point is it doesn't count, then no record being broken from this point forward in your mind would count. And also, this happened in the 1980s, right? And it's 2025 playoff. Okay.
Yeah.
the idea that he doesn't want to go for it or shouldn't go for it because of some made up in your mind, the season is longer than it used to be, is ridiculous logic that shouldn't matter here. He is either going to hold this record or he's not. And they're choosing for him not to. And for me, I cannot for the life of me understand why they don't want to go for this.
I got two sides of the coin here. I think one, I like that he's not playing for the team, because if he gets hurt, they're done, right? They're finished. But on the other side of the coin here for Saquon, it's a dumb decision career-wise, monetarily-wise, all of that, because you and I work in sports. You and I know how much these guys make at memorabilia shows and how far that'll take you for autograph signings, for being at these shows for literally the next 50 years. If he's lucky to live that long. Dickerson, there's a reason why he was rooting against Saquon, because Dickerson can still show up, get paid a bunch of money to sign some autographs, and everyone knows
the reason why the Miami Dolphins celebrate every end of an undefeated season, even though they did it. The Patriots did it in 16 games. They did it in 14 games, but because they won the Super Bowl that year, they're the only undefeated team.
That's right. And so with not Dickerson, but with Saquon here, I think it's a mistake for him to say, doesn't really matter that much. I mean, granted, he did say there after sleeping on it, he wanted to go for it.
Yes.
I kind of said this to you last week when we were talking about it, or before New Year's, where I said, you say to Saquon, we'll give you a half to do it. And if you do it, great. Or if you're close, and then we're putting you on the bench. But I think it's a mistake monetarily wise, because you just know how much money this will make you in your lifetime. And by the way, for him to, for what your point is too, with the 16 game season, someone else is going to do it eventually anyways. So I don't know what else you want him to do there. It's
the single season rush record, period. This is how long the season is now. You can either hold that record or not. There's no we don't play 16 games anymore, therefore I'm not going to go for it. The baseball season is longer than when Babe Ruth hit all those home runs. I know who the home run record holder is now. They're not giving it back. It's just stupid. And it's a mistake. And I also would say this to the Eagles for not wanting to go for it. Why do you as an organization not want to achieve greatness? What is it about greatness that you don't want to be a part of? And I can't believe the team doesn't want to own this, that the offensive line doesn't want to own this, that the organization doesn't want to own this. Why would you not want that?
Not only that, there's the other, layer to it all too, of you swipe this guy from the Giants, and in year one, you could get the single season rushing record with him. I would want that, on a wall somewhere as well. There's another layer to it with all of that too.
Yeah, there will be a picture of him breaking that record against the team that left him.
Yes.
Are you kidding? How does he not want that?
Right. Exactly. And not only that, it's no offense to the Giants, but they're terrible. So he should be able to do it against them too. It's not like they're going up against the Ravens or the Steelers or some really tough team.
In the game, all right, let's just say they get into the inside the 5, and they always do tush pushes anyway, maybe not this week because of Jalen Hurts. You don't want him to be on the field because it's not a lot of yardage, and you don't want him to take unnecessary amount of hits. Cool.
Yeah.
You get backed up by a punt, and you're right and you're on your own 2-yard line, and they know you're running the ball, and they stack the box, and you don't want to have a couple of car wrecks with him in it. Fine. But in between the 20s, where he could hit a couple of home runs and maybe break this record, and you don't want to put him out there? Because why?
Yeah.
I remember, not that long ago, Bill Polian got killed for pulling all the Colts out when they were 14-0. And you know what? They lost the Super Bowl anyway.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You can do both here. And if he gets hurt, it's a terrible thing, right? And then everybody looks stupid or whatever. I think they look stupid here too. I don't think there's no right answer. Well, there is. If he breaks the record and he's healthy next week, that's the right answer. I mean, that's the dumb part of the whole thing. You're just assuming he's going to get hurt. Why would you assume that?
Yeah. No, it's absolutely right. And like I said, I think you could do this in a half too. It's not like you're going to hand the ball to him 35 times, this week.
I think when you have he's not going to have 2,000 yards again. Like this is a one-off. Like that's the part of this that's really, I think, sad. He's acknowledging, I don't know if I'm going to ever be able to do something like that again. It all has to come into place. He has to stay healthy. Like teams could load up the box on them next year. Like, you don't know. Like there's so many things. This guy is having a historic season and you are punting on the idea of breaking an NFL record. Come on. Like, guys, the fact that organization doesn't at its core go, we want to achieve greatness. Well, the only greatness to them is winning a championship. It doesn't involve having the greatest rush season of all time.
Yeah.
When the core of this unit that you've had is your offensive line and your run game. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah,
like,
this is always.
I want them to change their mind so bad for him. This guy, I think. Yeah, that's the other thing about him. Like, I know he plays on an arch rival and all. I actually think he is a genuinely nice guy. Like, I think he's a genuinely great player. I think the way that the Giants handled him was not on him. It was on them. That was terrible the way they treated him. Like, he should be in their ring of fame, and they treated him like he was garbage. Like, oh, we can't pay you $500,000 more a year. Really? He's like the best running back of this generation. Like, why? I was saying this in the spring when the Hard Knocks came out. I go, if you don't value him, who do you value? The Eagles did. They gave him the money, and now they're not letting him etch his name in the history books. Come on, man. This guy's owed better than this. By both of these teams, he's owed better than this.
There's also a reminder here that there is only one Super Bowl champion at the end of the year. So, like, if you're not one of those, what are you hanging your hat on, historically or whatever? So if you don't win the Super Bowl, this is also a failure as well. So Good luck with that.
Like, you guys are unhinged. You know who isn't? Your ex-coach, Andy Reid. They're not unhinged. They're going to ring around the rosy and beat you in the Super Bowl if you're lucky enough to get there. Because the truth is, you may be playing on the road in the NFC Championship game if you get that far. And you are about to play a team that the only losses they have all year are to teams with better records than you.
Exactly.
Crazy. Anyway, all right, let me take a quick break. Bram wants to show us ESPN 630, the Sports Capital. Time for our first weekly visit of 2025 with John Keim of ESPN. John Keim Report. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Bram, and to everybody listening.
And, just like you said in August, the team would win as many games as they did in 1991, or at least the first time since 1991, because you predicted this the whole way.
I mean, duh. Who didn't? I thought, I'm going to go under the expected win total and pick 12. So how about that? No, I don't, clearly, unless you were the ultimate diehard who believes every year they're going to win 11 games, you did not foresee this coming.
Even I didn't. I'm an optimist for them. What I was hoping for actually played out. Dallas would take a step back. Washington would be the second place team. They'd have a chance to be the wild card, but this still is beyond expectation.
For sure. And it's funny because at the beginning of the year, I started with 7 wins because there were so many unknowns. Like, you knew and you could feel what Dan Quinn has talked about a lot, which is the tight bond that this group has. And you could feel that, right? We felt it in the spring, you saw it in the summer, but where was that going to take them? Who knew? You knew that Jaden Daniels would be good because there was never a reason to think otherwise. He gave he wasn't like he had a bad week in practice. He might have a couple throws were off target, but he was never really bad. And so you figure this kid's going to be good. But then you look around him and say, but is there enough around him to get from point A to point B this year? And those are the new offense. There were just unknowns. How would the O-line be? And so I think because of that, it's like I couldn't go above a certain amount because there were just too many unknowns. And you're right. Like, I thought they had a chance to get to second in this division if things broke right. But this is still above what I would have expected.
The other thing on Daniels, too, I was thinking about this, because I feel like some of the things he's done has not, been plastered across the opinion makers of the news media or the national media more than I would have expected it to. And I think part of it is, well, Tirico and Collinsworth weren't at all their games. They're not a high-profile team. They will be starting next year, but they weren't up until this point. And also, Daniels had this unbelievable season at LSU, won the Heisman Trophy, and yet played second fiddle to the guy who had won the Heisman Trophy before, because that guy was the number one pick and does Mahomesy-like things. Very eye-pleasing type crazy plays. Daniels does this now, but not in the way that I think people have grown accustomed to seeing, like, the highlight.
And, I'm glad you brought that up, because go back to the preseason. One of the first highlights I saw from Caleb Williams was like one of those running around in circles and throwing a big play kind of thing. Okay, makes for good TV. But the first play we really saw from Jaden Daniels was the checking out of a play into another one and hitting De'Ami Brown down the sidelines. And it wasn't the throw that was impressive. And I know they weren't necessarily happy that he checked out of it, because they didn't really want to provide that kind of a look for a defense, but he made the right football play. And I think that, to me, that jumped out to me and to others around here, because it wasn't about a fancy play. It was about the right play. And so, that's where I've always gone with him, is I think he makes a lot of the little plays that add up. And then you sprinkle those in. You get the hitch here, the curl here, the good read here, the good throw here, and then the big play. Then how the heck did he escape that from the pocket play? But in between, there's a lot of those little plays that quarterbacks have to make, and I think that's what he does. And that, to me, that's what separates him from a Caleb Williams. And, so I think you saw that early on, though.
And then early in the season, the first real breakout play was Monday Night Football, the throw to Terry McLaurin, which again was the right play in the face of adversity on this stage. It was the first time we got to see him do a Superman thing, make an incredible throw. And then as the season progressed, really the last few weeks, the 4th and 11 against the Eagles, where you start to see, and really just the second half against the Falcons, where you start to see the Superman stuff.
For sure. And I think it's been, three or 4 weeks where he's kind of put that cape on. And it comes at a time, and I remember even asking Dan Quinn about this a couple of weeks ago, about this team is starting to get a little bit banged up, losing guys like Noah Brown. And there was a period where, Austin Eckler's out. Zach Ertz, the one game was questionable. We didn't know if he was going to play. But yet it felt like Daniels had progressed to a point where he could overcome those because of his own performance. And it was the ability to make bigger plays on his own, or to make those kind of plays more regularly. So, and some of it is just, knowledge of the defense is increasing, et cetera. But I think the comfort level, and I also think, clearly during the middle of the season, there was a wearing down, whether it's how much it was the rib, how much of it was just you're getting beat up a little bit, you haven't had a bye, you haven't had a break in so long, you're playing some better defenses. But the bottom line is he looks really fresh the last few weeks. And I think that manifests itself in making some of those plays, but I also think his experience is just continuing his experience is helping him, I think, make more of those big plays.
I've been beating this drum. I know he's not going to get it, but I just want to ask you, do you think he should be in the conversation for the MVP of the league this year?
Well, yeah, for sure be in the conversation. Now, will he get it? No, he's not going to get it, because it's been Lamar and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, I think, belongs in there, and then some people will bring up Sam Darnold. So there are a few guys in that he needs to be in that discussion.
I think Saquon should be in it too.
And Saquon Barkley, thank you. Absolutely. Although if you talk to Eagles fans, when Jalen Hurts went out, everything crumbled, despite having the best line and the possible MVP. So I'm just.
They seemed to be okay with him last week, without him last week.
I'm just throwing that out there. That there were a lot of anyways. But I think for Daniels, yes, he should be, because we all know, you look at this roster, how many quarterbacks would come in here and do what he's done. Not that it's horrible, but Terry McLaurin, obviously very good, having his best year because of Jaden Daniels. But then after that, it's a collection of parts that they just find ways to fit, and he finds ways to make it work. It's an offensive line that is still, I think, is made better because of him. And I think the scheme and the play calling. So Kingsbury's doing a good job. But yes, I think he should. I will say, Bram, we know he's going to go into next year with maybe not the odds-on favorite, but he'll get a lot of discussion for that next year for sure, based on this year.
And go look at the schedule too. They will be playing at Kansas City next year. They're going to play the NFC North, so they're playing Detroit here. They're going to play Minnesota. It's hard to know, what all these teams are going to be next year, because the off seasons change everybody. But the schedule reads like you're going to see them in a lot of primetime spots. One, because of him, and two, because of the matchups that they have.
For sure, and that's how you get these things. And I think there will be a lot of momentum off of this year, regardless of what happens in the playoffs, that he's going to go into next year. And then, then it will be the momentum garnered from the offseason. What do? They have a lot of money to spend. They do have to retain a lot of their guys and make a lot of decisions because they don't have a lot of guys signed for next year. But they will have money to go get some people and add some parts around him. So I think this team's going to be looked at a certain way, and he in particular will be looked at a certain way, combined with exactly what you said. I mean, how many primetime games are we expecting here? It's going to be
5, 6.
Yeah, exactly, and probably an international game too. So
let's go.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm up for that. Let's go.
Yeah. The travel next year for us is going to be a little bit ridiculous, but it's going to help him in that quest, not his quest, but for people who care about that will help him, all that stuff.
So here we are talking about next year, and all these guys keep talking about is this year. And I think one of the tenets through the season was at the beginning of the year, aforementioned Cincinnati game, the Hail Mary, multiple times. We're all, as fans, and people I think who cover the team who have not seen this in a long time have been wanting to take a victory lap a little bit, fans. And for the people covering the team, a little bit of disbelief, I think, early that then turned into, oh man, like there's some legs to this. So here we are. And I think you asked Dan Quinn the other day, can you take a moment to kind of bask in what you've done here? And I thought his answer was very interesting. He was kind of nodding to you like, I can and I can't all at the same time because we're not done yet.
Right.
So I think we should stop talking about next year because they're not talking about next year yet.
Oh, no, for sure. And see, here's the thing. Again, I go back to, so we're basically starting over again with the expectations for what's ahead. So look at the season. The expectations were what? And look what they did. Now going to the playoffs, the expectation would be like from the outside world, but. Yeah, he's really good, but what do they have around him, et cetera? How much they can hold him back? So if I'm them, I'm thinking, well, that's how it was all year for us. Why would we think differently now that you can go out there and do something? You don't think Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz think they can do something? You don't think Jaden Daniels thinks he can beat anybody that's still all out there? So I think the mindset they've had all year is conducive to scaring the hell out of somebody in the playoffs. If they won a playoff game, I don't care who it's against in the first round. Would you be surprised? I would not be.
No. I mean, the funny part was I got a text the other day. It was from, I won't call out who, but somebody from our, broadcast group that does the Commanders radio network. And he was like, congratulations and good luck in the playoff game. And I wrote back, I go, game? Try games. Because I'm in this too. Because I had, after Philadelphia and Atlanta, the comebacks that they've had, -4 turnover margin, beat a team that's on a 10-game win streak, overcome 2 14-point deficits in a second half 13-point deficit, then beat a team whose season's on the line, down 10 at half with 13 penalties. I am now at the point where I will believe anything. And so I think that's fair to them. I will believe anything at this point.
Me too. And they've exercised a lot of ghosts this year. And the last one remaining last playoff one was in 2005. It's a long time ago, Bram. And so I was only on the beat for 10 years at that time. That's how long
only
ago.
10 years.
But that's how long ago it was. So, and I also think, again, there's something special about this group that is conducive to winning. And when does that end? Does it end with a first-round exit? That would feel incomplete to me. And again, then it depends on the matchup. Because it could be one of 3 teams. It could be Philly if they lose. It could be the Rams, or it could be the Bucs. And, am I going to be surprised if they beat the Rams or the Bucs? No. And we just saw them beat Philly. So I think the surprise, the biggest surprise would be if they somehow get all the way through. That's where it would be. But, I would maintain, and I think we'd all agree, there's not a team out there that wants to face Jaden Daniels.
Well, they are the 3rd highest scoring team in franchise history. They can be number 2. They won't get to number 1 unless they score 80. I'm not kidding. So, they could be the number 2 highest scoring team. They've had a top 5 rush offense the whole year, even though the last couple of weeks, outside of crazy unscripted runs, they haven't really run the ball particularly well. Their pass defense, believe it or not, is top 5 in the NFL. Top 5 after Tampa, Arizona, whatever, 22nd, 23rd, top 5. Again, I don't put anything past them. And while Jaden Daniels is not in a real MVP conversation now, if he does this 2 times in the playoffs and somehow gets them into, say, the NFC Championship or beyond, they'll be talking about MVP type caliber players at that point too.
Oh, for sure. And again, excuse me, it'll set them up for next year, for if nothing else. The other thing, I do have concerns about the D, and I know, like you said, top 5 pass defense, but I also think some of that is they run the ball on them, and they don't have to throw as much. So, excuse me, I think the run defense has got to be better, and they've done against Atlanta, against Bijan Robins second half, much better. Now, part of that was the offense controlling the ball. They also
had the ball for 13 minutes in the third quarter, so Bijan Robinson had 1 carry or whatever it was.
But he had 4 for 8 in the second half.
Right.
So in his limited time, they did better. And against Saquon Barkley the second half against Eagles, they did better.
Yes.
So, the
Eagles actually had the ball for 10 minutes of the third quarter. Like, that's one of the lost stats in that win and that comeback was they controlled the play and still lost in the fourth quarter.
And I'm surprised they were able to do that without Jalen Hurts there, because that's what the Eagles fans said. So anyways, that just was a funny thing. But anyway, so I'll stop off that one. But I think you have to be a little bit more consistent there. I think the one thing, though, again, that I would go back to is whatever the stats are, they do play hard, and I don't think they play scared. I think that's one thing where if they can get Marshawn Lattimore back for this stretch in the playoffs, that'd be really good. If you have to play a Mike Evans or Cooper or Nakua or whatever, you need that guy who in the corner does not play scared, because I do think I have concerns about that position in the postseason. Yeah. That would be a big concern of mine, because that's where you get the chunk play.
Well, listen, you're about to play playoff teams. The reason why they're there is they have excellent players at various different positions. In the NFC this year, the receiver position is really deep of any of the teams that they would ultimately play here.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, to get through to where you want to get through, and that's the goal for the players. Now, whether or not, fans, media might praise them if they even just get there and lose, but if you win one game, they're thinking more than that. So to get there, though, you're possibly Mike Evans, Nakua, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Justin Jefferson, that whole Minnesota crew. Then you have St. Brown for Detroit. You need a guy in that secondary that is not afraid to lock up. And if you get beat, I'm going to get back in your face again. And that's Lattimore. That's why they traded for him. They need to get him available. And will he be? Because, St. Juste is not that guy. We know that, right? And I think he, at times, what you wonder about his confidence level out there. But then Mike Samuel, he's a rookie. I still think he's better inside. I think we've seen a little bit, I think he's better inside, right? And I would just say that. I don't,
And I think eventually he will be. Yeah, but he's where he needs to be right now.
My point is, I think you need a guy like Lattimore. And I like what Samuel still adds, but I'd rather see him on a number 2 receiver versus a number 1. And I think that just the matchup is better, and that's what you can get, because Mike Davis, not it either. They need Lattimore to be healthy, I think, to get where they want to go. And again, it's why they was brought here. But I still go back to, Detroit, that offense is fantastic, but their defense is so banged up. How do you think they're going to feel going against this offense?
Yeah.
So, there's a path, but it's, there's a path both ways.
There's the one thing that I think is comparable to Detroit, that what's being built there is this kind of never-ending desire to not cede any ground. And I think this week was emblematic of it with this team. To go back to the whole idea of we're all kind of basking in the glow of something we haven't seen in a long time, and we're all kind of just happy that it happened, and, whatever happens next. That's not what they're doing. Dan Quinn has reiterated now twice this week, we got the 6th seed. We don't want to give it back.
Right.
It's actually important to us. We're going to continue to compete. We're not resting our guys. We won't play guys who are hurt, but we're not resting our guys. This is important to us. Dallas might be running Trey Lance and Will Grier out there to get a showcase. Just to see, they're going to use this as a jumping off point for next year. It's not Washington's looking at this at all. They're not resting their guys because they're happy they got in at all. And I think it just kind of continues this mentality of their head's not in the sand, but it's also not down or ready for award season yet.
No, for sure. And again, I think it goes back to look at the kind of guys they have too and the way they play. It's not just the top of the end of the roster guys like the Wagners, the Ertz, the Daniels. Those guys have tremendous competitive desire, and Terry McLaurin. But I think it's also guys at the bottom of the roster, or considered Zacchaeus, guys like Sheldon Day.
McNichols,
for sure. Guys who who do whatever it takes to stay on the roster, and like I think that combination works really well, and it pushes you to places that others may not think you can get to. And that's why, like, I'm not putting anything past this team anymore, because why? Like that belief takes you a long way. And when you have number 5, you always feel like you have a chance. I don't think with this mindset, I've seen teams that have had this mindset here, right? But they didn't have the special playmaker on offense to cover up sins. And they do now, and they know it. They know they can make a mistake, and he can still help them. And they can still be in the game, because that's what's been shown throughout. I mean, that Philly game early on, Bram, they've won 2 games the last 2 weeks, 5 turnovers, or in the last 2 home games, 5 turnovers, and then
13 penalties.
13 penalties. You shouldn't overcome that. And they
not against good teams, which those 2 teams are.
Yeah. And they did. Like, that shouldn't happen. Why does it happen? Because there's a belief that starts there, and then you have a quarterback that you have a belief in your team and your guy next to you, but especially in number 5.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Is your wife jealous of Jeremy Reeves' engagement on the field? Did she want you to engage her on the? No. Okay.
No, I'm.
Mine is also not jealous of that.
No, after 32 years, I think we're okay.
All right. All right. Happy New Year. See you down in Dallas.
Thank you. We'll see you down there.
All right, welcome back. Congratulations, Ryan Day. He got to give the double bird to everybody. That was a housing. And I was like, I don't want to say something stupid here, because I bet that some number 1 team has been beaten like flatly and roundly in recent years that I'm not remembering, but I don't recall it being like this, because that was a murder. What that was. They had nothing for them yesterday.
I believe I did see, it wasn't when the game was over. I think it was the first half. There had been no team that had given up like 3 touchdowns of that level in any game, like a number 1 team. So you're probably not far off with the stats that were being spit out in the first half. That'll quiet everyone that you lost to Michigan. I will say that. Like, there's not a lot that could have done it without winning the college football championship. But that'll do it to shut everyone up for at least a couple of weeks.
This doesn't change the fact that the seedings and all that need to be fixed clearly in all of this. Like, I feel very similarly about the NFL. Like, I think if you win your conference, okay, you're automatically in. In the same way, I feel like if you win your division in the NFL, fine, you're in. It doesn't mean you get a home game or that you get seeded like that. And like, this game shouldn't have happened in this round. But it is funny that it was a blowout, because all the complaining was about all the blowouts earlier.
Yep.
Well, you got the one that might have been the national championship, and that wasn't close either.
Exactly right. Like, this was actually the validation of the whole entire thing, I think, where it's going, oh, you wanted to complain about those blowouts with the lower seeds or whatever? Well, guess what? Here's one that none of you saw coming. Go bitch about that now. I was actually very happy to see one of these happen. I didn't think it was going to be this game, but I was waiting for it, because we knew one of these, not everything was going to be chalk. I just didn't think it was going to be like that yesterday.
How about the Longhorns? Down to 1 play, they pull a Jaden Daniels last night, pulled off an incredible play, got the tie, then went very next play, second overtime, score again. So, boy, that's there ain't nothing like that. That's like greatest feeling in the world. We've had a few of those this year around here. We had the Eagles game with the Hail Mary. They did it in the playoff. Ooh, this is you never, like, that's the rest of your life, buddy. You make plays like that. That's the rest of your life. That was incredible.
This is it's January and Texas is back. I mean, how about that? Like, actually back. They're actually back now.
In the surprise no one bowl, Penn State killed Boise State the other night. Shocker. And again, this is another one. They had a nice season. They belonged in the playoff.
They did.
Not as the seed that they were. And this is why we got some matchups that just didn't belong with one another. Obviously, because of the horrible things that happened in New Orleans. Yesterday, early in the morning, they postponed the Sugar Bowl to today. So we'll get Georgia and Notre Dame. And I mean, you know, if they're playing the game, then at least that's a good sign to me that city officials and federal officials believe that the threat is no longer one that's because I can't imagine they want to host an event with that many people in one building if they were concerned about terrorist or any kind of type of event like that. And so that would be a good sign that they feel like they have whatever the situation is under control. I feel terrible for all the people in New Orleans. What a horrible, horrible event that occurred yesterday. As for the game, I mean, there's no way this doesn't affect the players. And so I just don't even have a feel or a pick anymore because they've had to kind of live through a very strange situation, just like the rest of us. And now they're forced to go perform a day later in front of what's going to be, I think, an awkward crowd who's probably very nervous. I wish them the best, and whoever wins, wins. That's how I feel about it.
It's also a weird one too. You don't know how many people, had to head home or couldn't get accommodations or all of that. Like, how this is logistically kind of crazy, but that was the least, amount of everyone's worries. I commend them for actually taking a pause yesterday and going, let's postpone this for tomorrow because we need to make sure everything's like okay.
I don't think they could have played the game yesterday. I think there was too many unknowns and threats, and like the worst thing you could do is just move forward with something and there's an incident at a stadium with 100,000 people, however many people could fit into the Superdome. And so I think I obviously did the right thing. And I wish them both luck today. There's no way I think anyone could prognosticate how either team is going to play. All right, last thing real quick, back home tonight, Caps are back on the ice. I did see someone translated some Alex Ovechkin message on New Year's, and they said that he said F the Bruins or something like that, which I don't know. I don't speak Russian, so I don't know whether that's true or not. But boy, he's locked in, and he's back home, and the Caps get the Wild tonight. So what do you got?
Caps Wild is actually a good matchup here. Wild have actually been really good this entire season. One of the kind of surprises of the NHL. Ovechkin's got 3 games under his belt now, has looked really good. Give me kind of a little bit of a higher scoring one here, maybe a 4-3 game, 3-2 game, something like that, maybe a couple empty netters in that. But Caps have been able to rise to the occasion for some of these good teams. I like them at home tonight. They played really well against the Bruins the other afternoon, I should say. 12:30 on New Year's Eve was really fun. They locked in defensively in that game too. Basically a low scoring, only held them to 1 goal. Give me the Caps tonight. They're still the best team in the league at this point. Ovechkin looks pretty good. And the Wild's good. So they're going to rise to the occasion tonight. Give me Caps in a close one.
All right. See y'all tomorrow. Very much the show. ESPN 630, the Sports Capital.